Things I would like to see at Blizzcon 2017. Blizzcon is a few days away and I thought I'd make a video to discuss what I would like to see. I think it's fairly certain that a new expansion will be announced, so these are the things that I would like to see in the next expansion in World of Warcraft. New customization. For a long time, a lot of people were content with the customization options that we had in World of Warcraft, but as more and more MMOs were released, it became quite obvious that the customization options were very dated. Here I'm logged in Guild Wars 2 creating a new character. Even Guild Wars 2 these days is quite limited, but you can see there's quite a difference. Final Fantasy 14 and Revelation Online have even more options. It would be nice to be able to, change your body type and change your height, change your stature, being able to change the facial features, the width of your eye, the width of your nose, these kind of things. Whilst I do not want to spend an hour adjusting my character's looks, I do think Blizzard should update the options. Just look at the Tauren and Trolls. They just have almost nothing. And Blizzard did make changes a while ago where you could go to a barber and select new hairstyles, but these are mostly added from previous races, so they weren't technically new. Maybe we can add some scars, or, tattoos. Tattoos, finally. They did say at the start of Legion that they were going to add these things. I have yet to see them. It'd also be able to, nice to be able to make changes to individual aspects of the face and not have the face be, tied to face paint or ears being linked to piercings. So I hope that we're going to see some of these new features. Sub-races. It is common knowledge that people want this. It has been requested for years, and I think this is another aspect where Blizzard lacks. This of course also ties in with the customization options. Luckily, with the leaks fairly recently regarding 4 potential new sub-races, this could actually finally happen. But let's look at some other options. There are plenty of orc clans that could be used. The Magar, a very obvious choice, but even the Dragon Maw clan. From what I remember, they did join the Horde back in Cataclysm. I do not know their current standing. I do know that there was a lot of the Dragon Ball clan that were very loyal to Garrosh, but has every single Dragon Ball orc been loyal to Garrosh? So we have a lore reason why we can play as a Dragon Ball orc. I wish I could play as a Wildhammer dwarf. As a matter of fact, I would roll a Wildhammer dwarf immediately if I could do so, including the tattoos. The only thing that's missing would then to be able to have a mohawk as a hairstyle for a dwarf. That's surprisingly missing. But plenty of other races have sub-races. So the Trolls, for example, have various tribes. The Amani, the Drakari, the Shadowtooth, the Faraki and Zandalari are but a few. And the Tauren have various subspecies, the High Mountain, the Tonka and the Yongle, for example. I think it'd be awesome if we could, have those options available. I know it sounds fairly Horde specific, but these are just but a few examples. New races. I also would like to see another race join the fray. At first we had the Blood Elves and the Draenei, the GoblinsWorgen followed, and then we got a neutral race in the Pandaren. I think it would be cool if we could add another race, or even races to the mix. It's hard to pick a specific race, as there are a few that I could think of, which I think would be great. Personally, ever since the Spires of Iraq questing experience, I am a huge fan of the Arakoa. I would love to play as one of our Arakoa friends. They have a lot of history, they even have history with the old gods on Draenor. So this could tie in the next expansion if it is going to involve the old gods, which is what rumors are suggesting. Besides, the story of their 3 gods was very interesting, and the internal war they're waging is also an interesting story I would like to see more of. I'm sure we all remember stepping foot into the spires and seeing that giant laser lay waste to the forests down below. And who doesn't want to see more of Rashad and Percy? Maybe I just love Frank Welker's voice of Rashad. You could argue that they're a species from another planet, but that didn't stop orcs or the Draenei, and they're central to the game. The Ethereals received updated models, so that is another race which could be added. But it would be interesting to see how that would work with armor, considering that they're not a physical species and rely on their bandages to hold them together. Another race that I think would be awesome to have made playable would be the Tuskar from Wrath of the Lich King. It seems that they already have the option to wear most of the armor, all that they need is more development on the lore aspect. But gameplay wise, I think they're ready to go. Update to the Goblins and Worgen. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that this is going to happen, and they might even have already said so. But seeing as every other class or race actually has received their updates, these are the only ones that are left behind, so I do think that they need to get their long overdue update. The female Worgen especially is quite bad. The snarl needs to go. Funny how people really hated the alpha model of the female Worgen, and then they changed that and now they want to have the alpha model back. The goblins are also in need of an update, and I think it's safe to assume that they will get an update. Hopefully we will get this with this expansion, if not sooner. Update old zones. Right now, a major problem with leveling is how the stories do not match at all and cause some confusion, especially Horde side, with Garrosh having been War Chief, being replaced by Vol'jin at some point, but then still seeing Garrosh as an acting War Chief through some quests. Whilst the Kata revamp was great in my opinion, I think another revamp is needed, especially zones where Deathwing was prevalent as well as where Garrosh played a big role. Some zones still deal with Deathwing or even directly with the aftermath of Deathwing. Some zones are fine, for example Hillsborough Foothills, which story is mostly an internal story, but then there's zones like Silverpine Forest and Stone Talon Mountains where the story, is more revolving around Garrosh. I think zones like that could need a revamp. I don't think every single zone needs a revamp. For example, Hillsborough Foothills I think is fine, but I do think certain zones could use a revamp. Another cool thing would be to make these zones dynamic so that you wouldn't outlevel a zone as quickly as you do at the moment. I think my biggest problem is that I spend more time running to zones than I'm actually spending time doing quests in those zones. With the content being dynamic in the 1 to 60 zones, it means that you can actually stay in a zone and not having to feel like you have to go somewhere else because you're way beyond the level of that particular zone. Personally, I also think Outland and Northrend could use an update, but I don't think that's going to happen very likely. My biggest issue is that once I go through the 1 to 60 zones and walk through the Dark Portal, I hit Outland and it just falls into a slug. I hate the quests, I hate having to go from A to B and A to B and B to A and just going back and forth, collecting, 30 Zeppelin debris, and you have to click 30 different ones. It's not like you get multiple ones at a time. Kill 30 ogres and then get another quest where you have to kill another 30 ogres in Blade's Edge Mountains. It's all these annoying quests. Collect 12 bloods, corrupted blood even, but would you think every orc would drop one of those damn bloods? No, you have to kill like 30 of them in order to get 12. So those zones, I think, I wish Outlands and Northern would get an update, because whilst I don't mind leveling to 60, as soon as I hit Outlands, I am dreading going through those zones. More zones. One of the wonders of vanilla World of Warcraft was how there was a sense of wonder and exploration. I doubt most of us veterans will ever get that experience back, but simply due to us being older and wiser, but also having walked in Azeroth and Outlands and Draenor for over 10 years now. Argus is new and very exciting, but there's only 3 zones. Vanilla World of Warcraft had 2 huge continents to explore, so everything felt bigger, and since then it feels like things have been getting smaller and smaller. Legion is, I think overall, a pretty good expansion, but I think the Broken Isles themselves are a step down from Draenor. Whilst we, technically speaking, have 9 zones, High Mountain, Stormheim, Val'sharah, Zuna, Suramar, the Broken Shore, and now the 3 Argus zones, leveling wise, we only have 4. Suramar, the Broken Shore, and Argus are 110 zones only, meaning that for those who are leveling a lot of alts, the Broken Isles is probably one of the more frustrating expansions. Sure, we can pick any order we want, but with 12 classes, those 4 zones are quite frustrating. Yes, it is better to be able to pick where I want to start and what way I'm going, but with only 4 zones and roughly 3 zones required to reach max level, I will see each zone multiple times and I'm quite bored with them. It doesn't help that Suramar is now completely obsolete, as the game has progressed past that. And this is the problem with max level zones and new patches. If a new patch creates a new daily hub, say Argus, Surmar becomes no longer relevant. So now we have a zone with an amazing story and no reason to go there. The same applies to the Broken Shore. If these were leveling zones, we had more zones we could level in. At the moment, I feel like they're essentially dead zones. Sure, you'll find people in there completing quests for the art for weapons and power, as well as the Broken Shore's class mounts, but other than that, there aren't many reasons to go back to those zones, and I feel like those zones are now wasted. So hopefully with the new expansions, we have more than 4 leveling zones. Update to Silvermoon City. This is something that I know is going to be very unlikely. I mean, at all. The city is hardly ever visited, and Blizzard does not encourage it either. Sure, you might go there every now and then for the world events, but in all honesty, that is the only time you would ever set foot in Silvermoon, as well as Eversong Forest and Ghostlands. I'd love to fly around there and even see a modern version of Silvermoon City. When Cataclysm came out, it didn't touch Draenei and Blood Elf starting zones, and it is a shame. It doesn't help that officially they weren't part of the vanilla zones, and despite their geographical location, you couldn't actually access them if you didn't have TBC. And technically, they're located in Outlands, which is why you have to go through a portal in order to go from Eastern Plaguelands into Ghostlands. You can find images online to see the 2 zones off the far east of Hellfire Peninsula and Netherstorm, and the Late Haven Games made an excellent video about this as well. Anyway, that is it for me. Let me know what you would like to see in the comments down below, and see you chaps and chapettes in the next video.